All right, UXers. So this is the first lecture in the methods manual. I'm going to talk about uh, this is this is module methods number one. We're going to talk about the methods framework, and then also specifically the method of usability testing. Um, okay, so first here I'm going to just talk about the framework. So, well, and actually, I'm going to try to cover how we're going to do these. Okay, so you have your manual that you've downloaded um, from the website, the homepage, and make sure that when you're going to use it, you always download a fresh copy because I do update it regularly. Um, okay, and then so here I'm going to show you what things you need to do within this module, and I'm also giving you questions down here. Some of these are pretty obvious, but if I were going to write a test, like these would be the things that I could test you on. If we're going to do a quiz, these would be the things I could quiz you on. So you might want to have that printed out in front of you as you go through this stuff. Um, so this is the video you're watching here. This will be updated in the one you're looking at, and I'll have the link here. So let's dive in, and we're going to do this first one here. When to use which research method? Okay, so what we're using here, a lot of of course, I'm going to pull from this NN group, which is, I forgot what it's called, Nielsen and Norman, I think, are the two prominent UX um, researchers, practitioners that have a lot of good online content, and we're going to make use of a good chunk of that. Okay, so I'm just at this point going to talk through what I want you to glean from this. Remember, I just showed you those kind of reading questions that you're going to use, but he's going to lay out for you just a way to think about the kind of universe of UX methods you might use. And this is kind of abstract. I think it'll make more sense to you once you have some methods under your belt or in your toolbox. But we're going to start off with just this broader framework so you kind of get a lay of the land. Okay, so you're going to read about this. There's these three dimensions. Two of them are represented here in this 2x2 chart. So you're either looking at behavioral stuff or attitudinal stuff, and then it's either qualitative or quantitative. So, for example, what we're going to do first is this usability testing. That's more behavioral. You're not asking somebody what you think about it or how they feel about it. You're just seeing if they can do something. You're observing their actual behaviors trying to use that software tool or whatever it is. And then the research we can describe as either qualitative or quantitative. I want you to be careful here. These are used a little differently than we would use them in a statistics class. The qualitative you want to think about is it's more exploratory, it's more open-ended, um, it's more, it's broader and more nuanced in its approach. And the quantitative is abstracted. You're not looking at the overall use of the product. You're saying, okay, how long does it take them to do this? Or how many errors did I encounter? Or what percent of people completed the task directly? But you're abstracting out a specific number, which can be helpful, but a lot of the times you want to go in with a more um, uh, open-ended kind of framework. So this is broadly speaking, but this stuff on this side is a little bit more like ethnography. Like imagine you're an anthropologist, you're showing up to study some indigenous people somewhere, and you're just kind of watching and observing and taking notes on what they say. This quantitative approach is more like you're in the lab, you know exactly what you want to do, you're going to collect certain performance indicators or whatever. So you'll get a feel for this as we go. Um, okay, so explains these two: the attitudinal versus behavior, qualitative versus quantitative. Then he also just notes that this is a third dimension, the context of product use. And it ranges from a natural use of the product to a scripted use to not using at all. So, for example, with usability testing, it's going to be scripted. You're going to ask the user to do specific things with the product. You're not letting them figure out what they want to do. So these are different ways of setting up the scenario, so to speak, for the user. And then also, it's helpful to think about, you can use these at different points in the process of developing a product. So you can use them on the front end to say, okay, we might want to have some way that people can connect with people at their school. What kind of software tools do students want to have to connect with other people at their school? In the design phase, you might have already kind of identified some key things you want this piece of software to be able to do. They want to have a special space where people can talk about athletics, or a special space where people can talk about academics. And then you've already designed it and you've launched it, and then you're looking at how it works and how you might want to tweak it. So those are the different phases of the product development where you might be using some of these tools. Okay, and then there's this outline of all these methods. So at this point, as you can see from the reading questions I have for you, I don't expect you to be able to give me a detailed description of any of these, but if I ask you what diary studies are, you should be able to tell me, say, 2 reasonable things about it. Or flip side, if I describe something, you should be able to identify, oh, he's talking about a card sorting task. That's the level we want. And you should also be able to locate these things in this landscape, this 2x2 matrix. Okay, so this is the first thing in this module is this web page, and you're going to read and try to understand this. And then the second thing is I have a PDF downloaded, and it is more focused just on the methods per se, and it reviews this landscape that's talking about. It locates them on the grid. And then it walks through and gives you a short definition of them. So this is 100%, 90% of stuff that's already in that web page, but I think this is just focus on the methods. It's a nice, well-organized handout. So you might want to print this out and keep this in your notebook because we're going to be going through a bunch of these different methods throughout the course. Okay. Remember, so this is just your walkthrough video. You need to study each of these 2 things on your own. Remember, there's those reading questions I gave you. So I'm trying to point out some highlights here, but this by no means is just watching this video of me yakking going to be sufficient for this. So take your time and study these 2 sources that I've given you. Okay, thank you.